They told me the pain would stop after the first hour in the vat. They lied. When the FEV enters your bloodstream, when it starts rewriting your genetic code letter by letter, when you feel your bones snap and extend like someone's pulling taffy, made of calcium, that's when you understand that Vault-87 isn't making super soldiers, it's erasing people. And I can feel Marcus Henley disappearing, one memory at a time. You need to understand something before I tell you this, before the green overtook everything I was. My name was Marcus Henley. I had a wife, Sarah, a daughter, Emma. I need you to remember those names because I can't, not really. They're just sounds now, echoes bouncing around in a skull that's 3 times too thick. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm recording this in Vault-87's medical wing, or what's left of it. The terminal's keys are too small for these fingers now, each one the width of 2 of yours. But I need someone to know what they did here, what they're still doing. The screaming down the hall never stops. New test subjects, new brothers. That's what we call each other now. Those of us who survived the dipping. Brothers. As if we chose this family. It started 43 days ago. I was a scavenger out of Megaton. You know the type. Pick through the ruins, find pre-war tech, trade it for caps and clean water. Simple life. Honest life. We'd heard stories about Vault-87, of course. Everyone in the Capital Wasteland had. People go in, monsters come out. Stay away from the radiation storms near the entrance. Don't follow the Centaurs, those writhing. Masses of flesh and limbs that patrol the perimeter. God, if only I'd listened. But there was this contract, see? Some collector in Rivet City wanted Vault-Tec documentation, paid triple rate for anything from an actual vault. Sarah was sick, rad poisoning from bad water, and the medicine. The medicine cost more caps than we'd seen in a year. So I took the job. I took 4 others with me. Rodriguez, Chen, Big Tom, and a ghoul everyone just called Matches. Good people. I can still see their faces if I concentrate hard enough, though concentration feels different now, like trying to hold water in a sieve. The radiation near Vault-87's main entrance could kill a man in minutes. We knew that. But there were maintenance tunnels. Everyone knew about those too. What everyone didn't know was that the super mutants had been watching those tunnels for decades, studying patterns, learning when scavengers came, setting traps. You ever see a super mutant up close? Before I became one, I mean. They're 8 feet tall, minimum. Skin like boiled leather left in the sun too long. Green-yellow, mottled, stretched, tight over muscles that shouldn't exist. Their voices. Imagine gravel being ground in a cement mixer while someone screams. That's what I sound like now. That's what came out of the shadows when we entered that tunnel. They took us alive. That's important. The master might be dead. That's what they tell me, though time means nothing when your brain's been scrambled and rebuilt. But his vision lived on in places like Vault-87, the Forced Evolutionary Virus, FEV, 3 letters that explain everything wrong with this world. 3 letters that explain what I've become. The vault itself was worse than the stories. You walk through those massive gear-shaped doors, expecting another tomb, another failed experiment in Vault-Tec's catalogue of cruelties. But 87 was different. It was active. The lights still hummed with that sick fluorescent buzz. The air recyclers still pumped, though what they pumped smelled like copper and rot. And the labs, Christ, the labs were operational. They separated us immediately. I remember Chen screaming in Mandarin as they dragged him left. Rodriguez praying to every saint he could name as they took him right. Big Tom just went silent. Sometimes I think that was the smartest response. They saved Matches for something special. Prime Normal, they called him. Though I never learned what that meant. Never saw him again either. They threw me in a holding cell with others. Wastelanders mostly. A few vault dwellers from other vaults. You could tell by how they held themselves, how they still believed in rules and order even here. One woman kept insisting there had been a mistake, that she was supposed to be in Vault 101, that her father was overseer. The Super Mutant guard. I learned his name was Brick, just laughed. It sounded like an avalanche. No mistakes, he said. Only evolution. That's when I learned the truth about super mutants. They're not just monsters. They're converts, evangelists. They believe, truly believe, that they're the next step. That humanity is weak, flawed, dying. That the FEV isn't a corruption, but a cure. Brick had been human once. 30 years ago, he said, though he couldn't remember his name, couldn't remember his face. But he remembered the feeling of being weak, being afraid, being small. And he pitied us for still being trapped in those prisons of flesh. They fed us for 3 days. Actual food, not the irradiated trash we usually scrape together. Purified water. Med-X for anyone wounded in the capture. I thought maybe they were fattening us up, like Brahmin for slaughter. The woman from 101, Janet, she finally told us her name, thought they were evaluating us, seeing who was worth keeping as slaves. We were both wrong. On the 4th day, they came for me. 4 super mutants, including Brick. They didn't need 4. One could have carried me like a child carries a toy. But this was ceremony for them. Ritual. Sacred. The testing chamber was 3 levels down. The elevator ride took forever. I could hear it through the walls as we descended. This wet, thick, living sound. Like a heart beating. Like lungs breathing. The FEV vats. Dozens of them. Each one brewing a new batch of the virus that would unmake everything I was. You want to know what FEV looks like? Picture motor oil mixed with radiation, if radiation was a liquid. Green gold, viscous, with this shimmer on the surface, like gasoline on water. It moves wrong. Bubbles rise without breaking. Currents flow without source. And the smell, burnt. Copper and sweet rot, like pennies dissolved in spoiled fruit. They stripped me first. Standard procedure, Brick explained, almost gently. The virus needed full skin contact for optimal absorption. My clothes, my pack, the photo of Sarah and Emma I kept in my breast pocket, all of it went into an incinerator. I watched the edges of my daughter's face curl and blacken through the viewport. That was the first death. The small one, the one that made the rest possible. The vat they'd chosen was 12 feet deep, 8 feet wide. Industrial, the kind Vault-Tec built to last. Centuries. They'd modified it though. Added restraint rings, monitoring equipment, intravenous ports for supplementary compounds. A ladder led down into it, the rungs already slick with green residue from previous subjects. You go in human, Brick said, checking the terminals one last time. You come out better. What if I don't want to be better? I asked. He looked at me then, really looked at me with those yellow eyes that had once been brown or blue or green. And for just a second I saw something almost like sympathy. Want doesn't matter anymore, he said, only becoming. They didn't give me a choice about entering. 2 of them lifted me like I weighed nothing and held me over the vat. The fumes alone made my skin prickle, made my lungs feel like they were full of glass. I could see my reflection in the surface of the FEV, distorted, multiplied, already wrong. Please, I said, the word every human says at the end, the word that never matters. They dropped me. The second you hit the FEV, you understand that every pain you've ever felt was just practice. This is the real thing. This is what nerves were built to experience. It doesn't burn. Burning would be mercy. It unmakes. Every cell splits open like overripe fruit. Every bone cracks along lines you didn't know existed. Your skin doesn't dissolve so much as it reorganizes, like it suddenly remembers it was supposed to be something else all along. I tried to scream, but the FEV was already in my throat, in my lungs, rewriting the instructions for what air means, what sound means. I could feel my vocal cords thickening, stretching, becoming cables instead of strings. The scream that finally came out wasn't mine anymore, but the physical pain. That's not the worst part. The worst part is that you're conscious for all of it. Vault-Tec designed it that way. The FEV needs an active nervous system, an engaged brain, so they make sure you feel every second of your transformation. They make sure you're awake when your memories start to blur, when your daughter's name becomes just syllables, when the reason you came here becomes fog. The process takes 4 hours, but time doesn't mean anything when your brain is being pulled apart and rewired. 4 hours or 4 years, it's all the same when every second contains a lifetime of change. I remember trying to count. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. A trick Sarah taught Emma when she was scared of thunderstorms. Count the seconds between flash and boom. Calculate the distance. Know how far away the danger is. But the counting broke down around 300. Not because I forgot how to count, but because the part of me that understood sequence, that understood one thing following another, was dissolving. The FEV doesn't just change your body, it rewrites your entire genetic code, base pair by base pair. Vault-Tec scientists, may they rot in whatever hell they've earned, they based it on something older. Pre-war military research, the Pan-Immunity Virion Project, designed to create soldiers immune to biological weapons. Imagine that. They wanted to make better soldiers and instead made monsters. Or maybe that was always the point. My bones went first. You know that sound when you crack your knuckles? Multiply that by every joint in your body. Then add the wet snap of femurs extending, ribs spreading, skull plates shifting to accommodate a brain that's expanding beyond its original boundaries. I grew 2 feet in the first hour. My spine stretched like taffy, each vertebra popping free and resettling higher than before. I could feel my skeleton arguing with itself, the old blueprint fighting the new instructions. The muscle came next. This is where most subjects die, Brick told me later. The human heart can't handle the sudden mass increase. It tries to pump blood through tissue that's doubling, tripling in density. Most hearts just explode, pop like balloons filled with red water. But if you're compatible, that's the word they use, like this is a date instead of damnation, your heart grows too, becomes this massive drum, beating 40 times a minute instead of 70. Efficient, powerful, wrong. I could see my arms through the green haze, watch the biceps swell like bread dough rising in time lapse. Veins pushed to the surface, thick as garden hoses, purple-black with changed blood. My hands. Christ, my hands. Each finger broke and reset 3 times, growing longer, thicker, the knuckles swelling into clubs. I'd played guitar before the war. These hands would never make music again. They were made for one thing now. Violence, the masters, the super mutants who run the conversion chambers. They stood at the edge of the vat, taking notes, recording vitals. One of them, a giant even by super mutant standards called Fist, kept reading from a manual. The master's words, he said. The master who had envisioned all of this decades ago in a place called Mariposa. Richard Gray, who fell into a vat just like this one and came out as something that barely qualified as life. Who became the master, the first, the prophet of forced evolution. The unity shall bring peace, Fist read, his voice reverent. No more differences, no more conflict. All shall be one in the unity of the master's vision. The unity, that's what they called it. Their paradise, a world where everyone was the same strength, same thoughts, same purpose. No more human weakness, no more human cruelty, just the purity of shared consciousness and singular purpose. The master might be dead, killed by some vault dweller if the stories were true, but his children carried on, converting, spreading, growing. But here's what they don't tell you about the unity. It's built on forgetting. The FEV doesn't just transform your body. It scrambles your memories like eggs in a pan. Important things slip away first. My daughter's middle name, gone. The street where we lived, gone. Sarah's laugh. I knew she had one, beautiful like bells, but the sound itself, gone. They tell you it's better this way. No attachments to the old world. No pain from what you've lost. But that's a lie. You don't forget the feeling of loss, just what you've lost. It's like having a wound but not remembering how you got it. The pain remains, sourceless, endless. Hour 3. My skin started to turn. Not all at once. That would be merciful. It started at the extremities. Fingers, toes, the tip of my nose. Green-yellow spreading like gangrene. But instead of tissue dying, it was becoming something else. Something tougher. You could shoot a super mutant with small caliber bullets and they'd bounce off. I know because I'd tried it before. Now I understood why. Our skin isn't skin anymore. It's armor. Living armor that breathes and sweats and bleeds, but armor nonetheless. I could feel my face changing, the bones of my skull grinding against each other, reshaping, my jaw extending, teeth falling out to be replaced by something sharper, stronger, my nose flattening, nostrils widening to accommodate lungs that were 3 times their original size. When I tried to touch my face, my new fingers couldn't recognize the topology. This wasn't my face anymore. It was a super mutant's face. Face, number 7, they'd tell me later. There were only about 12 variations. The FEV wasn't creative. It had templates, patterns it forced you into. That's when the Centaurs started screaming. You know about Centaurs, right? The failed experiments. The ones where the FEV went wrong. Where multiple humans, or humans and animals, got mixed together in the vats. They keep them in the lower levels, these writhing masses of limbs and mouths and suffering. They scream because they remember being separate. They scream because they can't forget being together. Their screaming meant someone else was being dipped, someone in a vat close by. I could hear them splashing, fighting, drowning in the same green hell that held me. Male voice, young, begging for his mother who was probably dead, or worse, converted years ago. We were all orphans here, all children of the FEV now. By hour 4, the psychological changes started. This is the part that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. Imagine your thoughts are a river. Your whole life, that river has followed the same basic course. Maybe it floods sometimes, maybe it runs low, but it's your river. The FEV builds a dam in that river. Then it redirects the flow into new channels, channels that lead to conclusions you'd never reach, thoughts you'd never think. Violence became logical, not desired, not enjoyed, just logical. The equation was simple. Weak things suffered, strong things survived, therefore becoming strong was good. Helping others become strong was good. The fact that becoming strong meant losing everything you were, that was just the price. Everyone paid prices. This one was higher than most, but the return on investment, no. See, that's not me talking. That's the FEV talking. Even now, weeks later, I can't always tell where I end and the virus begins. It's not mind control exactly. It's mind renovation. Like someone came in and moved all your mental furniture around, painted the walls a different color, and now you have to live in this new space that's technically still yours, but feels alien. Masters pulled me out after 4 hours and 13 minutes. I know the exact time because they announced it, recorded it, celebrated it. Another successful conversion, another brother for the unity. They used meat hooks, literally meat hooks, on chains to haul me out. My new body weighed over 400 pounds. The excess FEV sloughed off me like afterbirth. Green and viscous, pooling at my feet. I tried to stand and fell immediately. My proportions were all wrong. Arms too long, legs too thick. Center of gravity somewhere in my chest instead of my hips. Brick caught me, held me like a father holds a child taking first steps. "You're beautiful," he said, and meant it. To him, I was what humanity should be. No more weakness, no more fear, no more doubt. They brought a mirror, full length, probably pulled from some destroyed department store. I didn't recognize anything in it. The thing looking back was 8.5 feet tall, shoulders broad as a doorframe. Skin like a radiation burn that healed wrong. Eyes yellow as piss, sunk deep in a skull that looked like it was designed by someone who'd only heard descriptions of faces. Muscles that didn't exist on human bodies. Cables and pulleys of flesh that let us tear a man in half with our bare hands. "Say your name," Fist commanded. I opened my mouth, my new mouth with its new teeth and its new tongue thick as a fist. The sound that came out was gravel and bass, nothing like Marcus Henley's voice. I started and then stopped because I couldn't remember. Not fully. Marcus was there somewhere, but it was like trying to remember a dream after waking. The harder I grasped, the more it slipped away. "You are brother," Fist said. "Brother 779. Your old name was weakness. This is strength." 779. That's what I was now. A number in their army. A soldier in a war I didn't choose but could no longer refuse. They gave me armor that barely fit. Super Mutant armor isn't really armor, just metal strapped to meat, and a rifle that looked like a toy in my hands but could punch through power armor. The indoctrination started immediately. They didn't call it that, of course. They called it education, teaching us the history we needed to know. The Master's rise in 2102, his discovery of the FEV at Mariposa military base, how he fell into a vat by accident and emerged as purpose incarnate, how he built his army, converting the worthy, consuming the rest, how he was betrayed. They always said betrayed, never defeated, by a vault dweller who couldn't see the vision. But the Master's dream didn't die with him, it spread. Vault 87 had been experimenting with FEV since before the Master's rise. The Evolutionary Experimentation program, Vault-Tec's attempt to improve on the military's formula. They tested it on their vault dwellers first. Men, women, children. Anyone who stepped out of line, anyone who questioned the overseer, anyone who was simply unlucky enough to be selected for random health screening. Most died. The ones who survived became the first East Coast super mutants. Bigger than their West Coast brothers, stronger but also dumber. The FEV strain here was different, corrupted. It worked too well on the body, not well enough on the mind. That's why they needed fresh subjects, fresh genetic material to keep the army growing. They showed us videos, pre-war propaganda about American strength, edited with footage of super mutant victories, raiders fleeing before our advance, Brotherhood of Steel paladins torn from their power armor like meat from shells. The message was clear. We were the future. Humanity's death rattle was ending. The age of mutants had begun. But at night, do super mutants sleep? We do. But it's not sleep like you know it. At night, the memories would surface. Not clear, not whole, but fragments. A woman's hand in mine, a child's laughter, the taste of clean water, the feeling of being small, being vulnerable, being human. The other converts felt it too. I could see it in their yellow eyes, that flicker of something lost. We'd sit in the barracks, these massive reinforced rooms that could hold our bulk, and not talk about it. Because talking about it meant admitting we'd lost something, and admitting loss meant admitting the conversion wasn't perfect. And that was heresy. But one night, maybe 2 weeks after my conversion, Brother 712 said something that changed everything. I had a dog, 712 said. Just that. 4 words that broke every rule. We weren't supposed to talk about before. Before was weakness. Before was death. But 712, Gary, his name had been Gary, couldn't stop himself. The dog's name was Rex. Black fur, white spot over his left eye. Used to sleep at the foot of his bed in Megaton. I can't remember if I fed him before I left, Gary said. And his voice, that grinding, monstrous voice, cracked. That's when I understood the real horror of what they'd done to us. It wasn't the transformation. It wasn't the pain. It wasn't even the forgetting. It was the remembering. These fragments of our past lives that surfaced like bodies in water, bloated and wrong, but undeniably ours. We were trapped between two states. Too mutant to be human. Too human to be truly mutant. The Masters said this would pass. The memories would fade completely after a few months, maybe a year. We'd achieve true unity then, unburdened by our past selves. But I'd met super mutants who'd been converted decades ago, and I saw how they'd pause sometimes, staring at nothing, their faces twisting with confusion at some half-remembered thing, a sunset, a song, a name that almost surfaced before sinking again. Vault-87 was producing 20 new super mutants a month. That might not sound like much, but multiply it by years, by decades. The Vault had been operational since the bombs fell. Thousands of conversions, thousands of people erased and rewritten, and we were just one facility. The Institute up north had their own FEV program. The remnants of the Master's army still had vats hidden throughout the Mojave. Black Mountain, Jacobstown, places where the green ran thick and the screaming never stopped. They put me on patrol duty after 3 weeks, said I was adjusting well. Strong 779 they called me, good soldier, good brother. They gave me a super sledge, a rocket-assisted hammer that could turn a human into paste with one swing, and told me to guard the perimeter. 2, catch more subjects for conversion. That's where I saw her, Emma. My Emma. Not really her. She'd be older now, if she was alive at all. But a girl who looked like her. Same brown hair, same way of tilting her head when she was thinking. She was with a caravan, traders from Canterbury Commons, trying to salvage from the ruins near the vault. She couldn't have been more than 16. The protocol was simple. Kill the guards, capture the young and healthy for conversion, feed the rest to the Centaurs. I'd done it 3 times already. It was easy when they were just shapes, just humans, just weak things that needed to be made strong. But this girl, she saw me first, 50 yards away, partially hidden behind a ruined semi-truck. Her eyes went wide, that universal human response to seeing something that shouldn't exist. She grabbed the arm of the man next to her, her father maybe, and pointed. They started running. I could have caught them. Even at 400 pounds, super mutants can move when we need to. Our muscles don't tire like yours. Our bones don't ache. We could run for hours, days if necessary. The hunting parties sometimes chased caravans for miles, wearing them down like persistent predators. But I didn't chase them. I watched them go, this girl who wasn't Emma but could have been, and felt something crack inside me. Not literally, though. With super mutants, you never know, but something fundamental. The part of me that had accepted this, that had started to believe in the unity, shattered. That night, I started planning. You can't just leave Vault-87. The place is a fortress, designed to keep people in as much as out. The main entrance is flooded with radiation that would kill even a ghoul. The maintenance tunnels are guarded by Centaurs and automated turrets. And even if you got out, where would you go? No human settlement would take a super mutant. The Brotherhood would shoot on sight. The Enclave would dissect you for research. But there was another option. Death. Real death. Not this half-life of forgotten memories and borrowed purpose. Super mutants are hard to kill. I mentioned the skin-like armor, the reinforced bones, the redundant organs. But we're not immortal. Fire works, if it's hot enough. Plasma weapons can reduce us to goo. And there was one more way, one the Masters didn't like to talk about. The FEV isn't stable. It never was. That's why it creates so many failures, so many Centaurs and failed subjects. In some of us, the virus continues to mutate. We call them behemoths, super mutants who never stop growing. 20 feet tall, 30, until their hearts can't pump blood to their extremities and they die. But before they die, they go mad. The brain can't handle a body that size. They become animals, pure rage and hunger. I could feel it in me, the potential for that growth. All I had to do was stop taking the stabilizer, the blue serum they injected us with every week to keep the FEV dormant, let the virus run wild. become a monster so completely that even I wouldn't remember being human. But then, 7/12, Gary, did something that changed the plan. He remembered more than just his dog. He remembered where he kept supplies hidden, a cache in the metro tunnels, far from here, weapons, medicine, and most importantly, a modified stealth boy. Military grade, not the civilian models. Something that could hide even a super mutant for a few hours. Gary was deteriorating faster than me. The FEV hadn't taken properly. His body was rejecting parts of the transformation. One arm was still partially human-sized, useless and withered against his massive frame. The masters would notice soon, would either re-dip him or feed him to the centaurs. He knew this. "Take it," he told me one night, pressing a hand-drawn map into my massive palm. "Find the cache. Get out. Remember us." "I can't remember anything," I said. "That's the point. Then write it down," he said. "Before you forget completely. Make them know what happened here. Make them know we were people once." Gary died 2 days later. They said it was rejection syndrome, but I saw the marks on his neck. Self-inflicted. He'd found a way out, and he'd given me mine. The cache was real. Getting to it took 3 weeks of careful planning, sneaking out during patrols, inch by inch, extending my range until the masters stopped paying attention to where strong 779 went. The stealth boy was there, along with 3 stim packs, a laser rifle, and most importantly, a holotape recorder. This holotape recorder, I've been recording for 6 days now. Every memory I can dredge up, every detail about the conversion process, every name I can remember. Not just mine, all of ours. 712 was Gary Wheeler from Megaton. 813 was Patricia Chen from Rivet City. 699 was a child, God forgive us, we converted children, named Tommy from Little Lamplight. The FEV is taking more from me each day. Yesterday, I forgot Sarah's last name. Today, I can't remember what color Emma's eyes were. Tomorrow, I might not remember Emma at all. But this recording will. This testimony will survive even if Marcus Henley doesn't. I'm going to use the stealth boy tonight. Slip out during the guard change. The laser rifle has enough charge for maybe 10 shots, enough to fight my way past the Centaurs if necessary. There's a Brotherhood outpost 17 miles north. They'll shoot me on sight unless I can make them listen. Unless I can make them understand that inside this monster is still something human. Something worth saving, or at least worth hearing. If you're listening to this, it means I made it, or someone found my body and recovered the holotape. Either way, know this. Vault 87 is still operational. They're still taking people, still making monsters, still spreading the Unity's poisonous dream of evolution through agony. The FEV isn't evolution. It's not transcendence. It's theft. It steals your face and gives you a mask. It steals your voice and gives you a roar. It steals your memories and gives you purpose. But purpose without choice isn't purpose. It's programming. And we're not robots, despite what this virus tried to make us. I can hear them calling for 779. Morning count. When they don't find me, they'll sound the alarm. Send hunting parties. Maybe they'll catch me. Maybe the stealth boy will fail halfway to safety. Maybe the Brotherhood will shoot first and never hear this recording. But I have to try. Gary gave me that much. That girl who looked like Emma gave me that much. My name was Marcus Henley. I had a wife named Sarah and a daughter named Emma. I was human. We were all human. Remember that. Someone has to remember that. Strong. 779 signing off. No, Marcus Henley signing off, while I still can.